And even though I feel like I'm doing something for the first time, I also have this like soul knowledge, like I've done this before. Like I've co-created before with energy in very non-tangible ways that then became tangible. So one of the first things we talked about were like, how do we take these like dimensional thoughts and put them onto something in the dimensional world?
Hey everybody, it's Tanya here. I'm so excited to share an excerpt from my new podcast called Women Working with Light. It is a series of interviews with women from around the world who are doing what they love in service to themselves and to others. And I cannot wait to share my first guest with you today. This is Autumn Manzo. And in this particular excerpt, she is talking about channeling a group that she refers to as the Titanic Starseed Council. She also talks about co-creating a new and upcoming oracle card deck with a galactic tribal group. So turn on your closed captioning and enjoy this fantastic interview.
And I had so many emotions coming up, right? And I just started drawing. To like comfort myself. So when I was a kid, I used to draw. I don't have a big history of doing a lot of art or whatever. I just started doing it in early 2019, like for therapeutic purposes. And pretty soon I'm getting images in my head of different hearts and how to draw them. And then light beings start coming into the picture. And I'm like, okay. And I start doing it and just had a series of them. And then I'm talking to a coach or something in one of my creative groups, and they mentioned, wow, I could see those as part of a book. And I had like 6 images, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, the Titanic book. And it did. And so basically these two individuals, this one's named Orion and this is Blaze. And they kind of represent the Titanic and the Olympic. And the consciousness of the different types of consciousness that can be sinking, consciousness that's sinking, and a consciousness that is more stable and infinite. So this is finite and infinite, and it's the dance between the two. And so all these images started coming to me about duality, about just understanding the nature of duality. And I think I was at the library with my son, and somebody brought out some Kool-Aid to dye something. And it was pink and blue, and all of a sudden they accidentally mix the colors and it starts flowing towards me purple. And the light beings say, that's the color of unity. And so that's why we're purple. And so you'll see that my background of different hearts will be purple because the colors themselves carried like a frequency. And so, so then I just started, I did my meditation book, which is different heart images and then some questions and a little bit of a paragraph that I channeled for each of them. Mm-hmm. And to do that, I also channeled, it was like a secondary 20-page just written channeling of just, I could just sit and then they kind of directed me what paragraphs to use in the book.
So I'm just curious when you say they, so is that the Titanic Council?
Yeah. So
particular beings that you work with?
Yeah. So the Titanic Council is for my meditation book. And whenever it's topics of duality, I feel like they're the ones that communicate with me. Mm-hmm. And then it's a different energy to work with this oracle card deck that I'm channeling. We think it's the co-creator and I, we're not even definitely sure who we're channeling. We think it's like a tribal connection of star races, like once again, a council of star races that work together in another realm and then impart information and how to work together more in this realm. So
you and your co-creator are channeling the same energetic groups at the same time?
Yes.
Oh, tell me about that.
So that was 2019. Okay. So 2019 was my meditation book. And then 2020 and 2021 were basically focused on living out, integrating, which is what the Titanic Council told me they were. They were integration partners. They're how to live in more integrated with yourself as a a human being, but also a spiritual being. And so you are both of these sometimes, right? If you're incarnate. And you're going to need to know the dance between those and how to honor yourself. So that's kind of the gist. A lot of my heart work meditations are two opposites that actually work together. Yeah. So it's kind of like not seeing things as so opposite, but as counter partners, two sides of a coin. So that's kind of where my energetic kind of tuning in ability came. And so I actually had this message come to me when I was thinking about making a second meditation book. And the message was, you're going to do an oracle card deck next. And I was like, what? I didn't even own an oracle card deck at that point in time. And I was like, so I'm starting to think all these images are going to have to be on oracle cards. And I'm kind of like, that's a lot. So 2020, of course, we got the pandemic, right? In 2020 and 2021, I'm trying to get my art studio. At the end of 2021, I started to have a very dark night of the soul where I had my studio. Finally, I had to do the walls, the floors, the ceiling. I get my studio all set up and I want to invite families out to create or whatever. And I start hitting some roadblocks and all these like no's just started weighing on me. Like, oh my gosh, I had this great mission, but you're getting this big no from the universe. And I took it very to heart, where when I started coming to 2022, I was like feeling empowered, like, what can I do to change this? And so I chose the word faithful as my 2022 word. And one of the leadings of my soul said, get involved in some online communities. Like if you're feeling a lack of connection or whatever, don't just look at your art studio as like the way to do this. Get involved in some online communities with different meetups of like-minded people and fulfill your need. Because I had a need for socialization. So I realized it wasn't really about my mission. I was really seeking a need and just feeling very unmet. So I'm going to be faithful. So I show up to a first little online meeting and we're talking and I'm really connecting with this one woman, just like she's going through a dilemma and I'm getting these questions like, oh, ask her this, ask her to think about this or this. And she's like, that's really helpful. And we're connecting and I'm like, let's become friends on Facebook, like, yeah, definitely. and all of a sudden towards the end of the thing, she says, I told her I do meditative art. And she said, really? Because I'm looking for an illustrator for an affirmation deck that I've been wanting to create for a long time. And all of a sudden, everything in my soul felt like, yeah, yes, like that big, like, yes, do it, jump. And so we started connecting and we had the same breakdown, the same ideas, the same everything for a deck. It started coming. Yeah, the synchronicities started. We're tapping into this energy. It's like, we feel like it's downloading different things to us. The exact same theme, like I'm going through with something in my life, she's going through in her life in a different way. And then we're accessing wisdom because of it. We actually live 6 hours away from each other. We've met one time in person, but we've noticed, and this is just the one thing I've noticed in my conscious awakening, distance doesn't really exist anymore. Physical distance. Yeah, you can meet with each other in the quantum field or another realm and really connect.
When you have those moments where you meet somebody that really you identify with their energy and you just recognize them, and some people will call it soul family or energetic twins or whatever you want to call it, but it's just that ease of flow and back and forth and the synchronicities within your lives, and it makes these processes just spark alive, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And even though I feel like I'm doing something for the first time, I also have this like soul knowledge, like I've done this before, like I've co-created before with energy in very non-tangible ways that then became tangible. So one of the first things we talked about, we were like, how do we take these like like dimensional thoughts and put them onto something in the dimensional world. And I know you do this, Tanya, with your channeling. And it's definitely, it's something that the human mind, you know, has to kind of take a backseat to, and allow the dimensions, the dimensional collapse, even subtle shifts in our energy field and how your energy might be flowing, how it's activating within you. And this phoenix is an image of like, it can crash and burn and rise again, right? And it's like life is so much about this process of letting go and
it's such
rising.
A great symbol of duality, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, like you have like destruction and creation, and death and life and rebirth and transition, and especially for people that are going through the whole awakening process, because that is the whole process. It's constantly awakening to do new ideas and new things. So
yeah, I'm gonna show you one more card. This is Regulate. It's an ocean theme, and then the immersion card is water, and that's
beautiful.
That first card, that's the root chakra, is breathe. The immersion is a forest. So, you know, attachment and relating are like the dualistic things that we learn how to integrate, right?
And I'm curious because I want to sort of take that theme just on a little swirly, which is I think a lot of people that are maybe going to tune into this podcast are people that are maybe new to channeling or are exploring that's even a concept or an idea or perhaps something that they're doing. So I think there is, again, doors are opening, but there has been up to this point, this preconception that it has to be done in a specific way. And I always make a joke about, you know, you don't have to sit on the floor in lotus position for 2.5 hours in order to be channeling. There are different ways and everyone does it different. So I'm really curious, like if you could give us maybe the short form of how it is that you're tapping into this. I mean, do you have a ritual or is it just sort of coming in your dreams or astral? So how does it work for you?
Okay, so part of, before I can make an image, like right now, if I have this list of all the words came to me. So when I had that night of really intense, like downloading, the next day, I was able to write all of the words for the decks. So I know what the name of each of the 78 cards is. So the other ones, we'd just be talking about a theme, and I would say, I'm getting this image, or I would get the image, and over a series of days, it becomes more clear. And even when I go to make it, it's not the image that I actually first saw in my head. It comes out a little different, you know, like but it's like the energy behind the image. So it's like it's kind of like feeling like you're a translator, if that makes sense. Like, so first you feel the energy of a card, and then you start getting the specifics of like, okay, I already know the model that the phoenix looks like this on the outside and the colors, but what's on the inside? So for the wound energy, I got the image of, it's going to have a light being in every picture, and they're doing something. So that came to me first, a very vague, like, okay, it's a light being in the picture and they're doing something. And then the specifics started to unfold. I sit down, I put my ear pods in, I put on music, usually meditation music. I really try to touch on our intention, which our intention is to basically be of assistance to the ascension process. Like Caitlin and I really feel like we're going through a human genetic it's a physical change. The genetics of our bodies are upgrading, are holding more light, and it has to kind of purge darkness or areas that it just has to. And so that's not easy. So we want our deck to be something that someone who understands ascension, maybe that terminology, or they'll start to once they get it, that it's bringing light to what's going on inside of you. Like, okay, I'm not going crazy, and this resonates with how I'm feeling, and I'm valid. And I don't know about you, but once I started tuning into consciousness, I became such an intense emotional being, where learning how to regulate my own emotions became a whole new game for me.
Yeah.
Like, you're having so much, your ability to feel the denser emotions increases as your ability to feel the higher vibrations. And if you don't stay balanced to feel and to be balanced, in the higher vibration, you can go anywhere. I would say for me, like the images come and just getting quiet, they will flow, from another realm through to my mind and then to my hand. And I've gotten better at, like, I used to do like some rough drafts or whatever. Once in a while I do, but usually it's because I wasn't highly tapped in. I was trying to rush something. If I find myself judging anything like that, then I'm not in the right energy. So usually when I'm creating, there's like absolutely no like judgment. Is like someone going to like this, or it's like, it doesn't really matter. I don't really care if I made this deck and Caitlin and I just had a deck for ourselves that was on a thing. We feel like we did our job. Like we don't have that feeling like we have to have it published and shared, but we feel like that's the motivation and the intention.
We're actually offering support for people as they're going through this process, and also giving them a community, which goes back to the work that you've been doing in general.
Yes, full circle. Like, it's like, if it's also that, like when you ask for something from the universe, you're not going to always be able to predict. You're not going to be able to predict how it comes to you, how it manifests. But can you be open enough to see how it could manifest, how it could come to you? I did not think, I had all this childhood trauma that I didn't even realize was still a part of me until I started channeling the wound energy series. And then I actually sought out a quantum healer and did some work myself, whole new level of healing for myself. But just through this creative process that I don't know what else would have gotten me there, but this is what got me there. And by being faithful to anything that comes to me and not balking at it and saying, oh, no, I don't have time for that. Or no, that's too weirdo. That's too woohoo for me or something. It's like nothing is,
yeah.
Such a challenge, I think, for many people that are new to channeling or doing energetic work in general, is learning to trust that inner voice and that intuition, because it's so easy to just disregard it. Like, oh, that's not true. That couldn't be happening. Or no, I can do it this way, or I'll just do it the way I used to. And you start to learn to trust your intuition and your heart, and then things just blossom. And that is so remarkable. What a great interview that was with Autumn, and there is so much more to it, so do check out my new podcast, Women Working with Light, and you can find a link to that and all of Autumn's great social details below. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.